Welcome, friends. Tomorrow is a day that has been set aside to pay tribute to those who have fallen in defense of our freedom. Although our gratitude goes out to them every day for their sacrifice to allow us the opportunity to serve others without interference by a repressive government, we appreciate their service all the time. Today's topic is reverence for life and nature. Next week's speaker will continue our series on master works of Theosophy. Next week's is the Key to Theosophy, that work by HPV. HPV often reminded us that she was merely passing on in her works the ancient message as given to her by the masters of wisdom. At 12:30 p.m. every first and third Sunday, which would recap the next would be the next meeting we have on that, we read and discuss selected theosophical writings. The series we're working on now is Living the Life. The ULT is guided by its declaration printed on the back of our program, which is here in print. Here it is. And also on our website. The declaration says, "The policy of this lodge is independent devotion to the cause of Theosophy, without professing attachment to any theosophical organization. It is loyal to the great founders of the theosophical movement, but does not concern itself with dissensions or differences of individual opinion. The work it has on hand and the end it keeps in view are too absorbing and too lofty to leave it the time or inclination to take part in side issues. That work and that end is the dissemination of the fundamental principles of the philosophy of Theosophy and the exemplification and practice of those principles through a truer realization of the self, a profounder conviction of universal brotherhood. It holds that the unassailable basis for union among theosophists wherever and however situated is similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching, and therefore has neither constitution, bylaws, nor officers, the sole bond between its associates being that basis." And it aims to disseminate this idea among theosophists in the furtherance of unity. It regards as theosophists all who are engaged in the true service of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, condition, or organization, and it welcomes to its association all those who are in accord with its declared purposes and who desire to fit themselves by study and otherwise to be the better able to help and teach others. The true theosophist belongs to no cult or sect, yet belongs to each and all. And if you're living in the Washington, D.C. area or visiting, we welcome you to our meetings, which occur every Sunday at 11 o'clock. Today's reading is from chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita, Devotion through the Right Performance of Action. When in ancient times the Lord of creatures had formed mankind, and at the same time appointed his worship, he spoke and said, "With this worship pray for increase, and let it be for you, Kamaduk, the cow of plenty, on which ye shall depend for the accomplishment of all your wishes, with the nourishment of the gods, that the gods may nourish you. Thus mutually nourishing, ye shall obtain the highest felicity." The gods being nourished by worship with sacrifice will grant you the enjoyment of your wishes. He who enjoyeth what hath been given unto him by them, and offereth not a portion unto them, is even a thief. But those who eat not but what is left of the offerings shall be purified of all their transgressions. Those who dress their meat but for themselves eat the bread of sin, being themselves sin incarnate. Beings are nourished by food. Food is produced by rain. Rain comes from sacrifice, and sacrifice is performed by action. Know that action comes from the Supreme Spirit, who is one. Wherefore the all-pervading Spirit is at all times present in the sacrifice. He who sinfully delighteth in the gratification of his passions doth not cause this wheel thus already set in motion to continue revolving. He liveth in vain, O son of Pritha. But the man who only taketh delight in the self within is satisfied with that, and content with that alone, hath no selfish interest in action. He hath no interest either in that which is done or that which is not done. And there is not in all things which have been created any object on which he may place dependence. Therefore perform thou that which thou hast to do at all times, unmindful of the event. For the man who doeth that which he hath to do without attachment to the result obtaineth the supreme.
Good morning and welcome, friends, to our meeting. Today we're going to discuss reverence for life and nature. In order truly to understand why we should, we'll start reading from the Voice of the Silence. This is on page 289. And the heading is Extracts from a Private Commentary, Hitherto Secret. So it no longer is secret because it was printed at that time. The first paragraph. The initial existence in the first twilight of the Mahamanvantara, after the Mahapralaya that follows every age of Brahma, is a conscious spiritual quality. In the manifested worlds, solar systems, it is in its objective subjectivity like the film from a divine breath to the gaze of the entranced seer. It spreads as it issues from Laya, quiescent state, throughout infinity as a colorless spiritual fluid. It is on the seventh plane and in its seventh state in our planetary world. On the next page, the initial existence, which may be called, while in this state of being, the one life, as explained, is a film for creative or formative purposes. It manifests itself in 7 states, with their septenary subdivisions giving us 49 fires. So, one life is where we start from. This one life, in its initial existence, is a spiritual fluid, where it is stated, and it has 7 levels and the states. So these 7 levels then constitute the 7 states of matter. And in the next paragraph she says, the first is the mother. This is primary, undifferentiated. And then as it goes downward in a spiral, it becomes, in its lowest emanation, concretized. This is the substance that we see on Earth. In the mineral, then, it is the spark which is latent and lies in it, giving it positive and negative. That is polarity. In the plant, it is the intelligent force that enables it to grow. In the animal, it does the same. It's life principle, vital power, instinct, and qualities. To man, it gives all of it, plus the 49 fires. So, we see that we come from the same root. This is one life. Everything that exists in our world exists in this one life. And we just read from the Gita that anyone who wishes to work for humanity and enable it to move forward, what does that exactly mean? What is it that we're achieving by this movement forward? What's the highest possible for human beings? No religion states it, but it is emancipation. Emancipation from substance and reaching back to where we came from, which is the highest, the spiritual state. So in the Gita it states that we need to do our duty. And last week we read the difference between duty and dharma. So if it is ours, if it comes to us, then it is ours to do. If it doesn't come to us, it's not ours to do. Now, if we look backwards, we find that at the beginning of the Gita, we are at a field, we are getting ready to fight. And this fight is going to take place between Pandavas and Kurus. One side represents our lower and the other side represents our higher nature. And it's stated that this fight is an internal fight. But what men do, men externalize their inner fights, and this is what we see, this disharmony in our universe. There is constant fighting, and that fight is the inner fight exhibiting itself on the outer plane. Gandhi, who was educated, his higher education was in London, he became a lawyer, was totally westernized. He came across two brothers who were studying the Gita in Sanskrit. Up to that point, he had never read it. He decided to go and see what it was being done, came into contact with the Theosophical movement, and his life thereon changed. And as we know, he totally reversed his westernization, went back to studying his own religion, and understood what the Gita was saying. And what did he do? He changed the whole world through peaceful resistance. So, the fight then is within ourselves. And the mysteries are written in cipher form. They're small and they're archetypal. It is for us to understand what it is that we're supposed to do. So, in those pages in the Gita, there is food for everyone, all different categories. Babes, yes, milk, strong men, meat. It's not one meaning, it has many meanings. One for the men of senses, another for the men of learning, and another one for the disciple who's trying to struggle on this path, and another one for the enlightened seer. So if we make a mysterious book of that sort our companion, and we stay with it, eventually it does reveal the different meanings that it contains. And we just read from The Secret Doctrine that life exhibits itself in 7 different levels, and it is for us to figure out our own 7 different sheaths. In olden times, I came across this statement which sounds wonderful, so I'm going to just read it. It is a well-known fact that the pyramids stand a square with the points of the compass and therefore face sunrise at the time of the equinox. It has been found that many of the older solar temples of Egypt face the sunrise or sunset at the time of the summer solstice. The medieval cathedrals of Europe were also oriented to the sunrise, and the Basilica of St. Peter's was also aligned to the east, so that when its doors were opened during the equinox, the sun's rays penetrated through the nave, illuminating the high altar. I'm reading this to show that the ancients were very well versed in the mysteries. They understood the intricacies of what was being said, but not only that, they applied it, because all of the old structures show that they knew what they were doing. They knew the mysterious qualities of portions and how they related to one another. And if we look through all of the cultures of old, we see that they were sun worshippers, and they regarded the sun as the great spirit and God in nature, identical with nature. And they called the sun the deity in whom the Lord of life dwells. The Vedas contain hymns to the sky, the dawn, the sun, and kind of forms a ritual which was chanted at sunrise and sunset. So the rising sun in Egypt was Horus, the child god. Amen-Ra, the sun, for noontide, the strength, and Osiris was the setting sun. In Greek's mythology, Helios represents it, and later on, Apollo. In Phoenicia, the sun was Baal. Agni, the divine fire of the Hindus, is the sun, for the fire and the sun are the same. Or Mars is light, the Zoroastrian sun god, or the life giver. None of the ancients, the sun worshippers included, regarded our visible sun otherwise than as an emblem of their metaphysical central sun god. So before we say that the ancients were ignorant, we need to understand what the symbology they use represents, because everywhere allegory was used. And when truthfully and realistically understood, its implications are tremendous. So today, the occultists promulgate the same philosophy, that the true sun is not the visible sun, but what it stands behind it. This sun we see in the sky is a magnet. The magnet. It's the greatest one for our system because it is the star of our system. So, the ancients did not believe what the modern science teaches us. Light and heat, we are told in the Secret Doctrine, does not exude from the sun. It has no heat, neither does the sparkling stars. These are reflectors disseminated through space. Reflectors. So, considering how little it is known about this sun, which is visible to our naked eye, the true sun behind it then is totally ignored by science. We're told The orb, the sun's orb, guards and sustains the animal economy, but the true sun shines into us through its medium within our nature. And the true sun is there to give us a spiritual energy and help, just as the luminary in the sky springs our physical life and motion. So, the influence of that power can be obtained by the mystic, but only for beneficent purposes. And it is stated, were the robes to be slightly removed, our earth would be reduced to ashes. But the protecting shell is at such a distance, and our mathematicians, by the way, do not know how to calculate exactly where it is protective. And the sun, it is stated, will be there until all men have reached their goal. So, the true sun of the system, our solar system, is the heart. Is the heart of our system. And there's a lot of writings about it in the literature. So the sun then is the storehouse of the vital energy, and it is electrical for our system. It gives out and receives continuously, and it never is diminished. And it is the life essence of everything on earth. The planets are its limbs and pulses, we are told, and the regular circulation through its vital organs takes 11 years, 10 years, and then 1 year to push it through the ventricles and so forth. So the sunspots are the reservoirs of that vital energy, and the human heart follows exactly the same pattern, but it doesn't take 11 years, it takes 1 or 2 seconds. In the secret doctrine, we are told that the sun has 7 rays, and these 7 rays are the 7 occult forces or gods, because they were personified in the olden times, transmitting everything. Shushumna, we are told, is the first one, and it radiates its light through the moon. And the last one, the 7th, which is the synthesizing power of the whole lot, is the Swaraj. And that is equivalent to Brahma. We started with the one life. That one life in our world represents Atma Bodhimanas in us, but in the Trimurti it is Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva in the upper realms. 3 in 1, 1 in 3 in the secret doctrine. In each of these rays stands for the creative forces or gods. In the Rig Veda, Aditi, the primordial substance that we refer to at the beginning of this talk, is equivalent to mother space, and it is coeval with darkness, and it is called Diva Matri, because the matrix of that one life is the container of all that exists within our universe. Allegorically then, 8 sons there were born to the Aditi, but only 7 remained. The one was cast out. The cast out is the sun, and it's whole. That's the sun. I'm putting these terminologies on the board so that you can transcribe it for yourselves when you come across the term in the literature. But as the mysteries were forgotten, so all the relevance of these statements were also forgotten. So it is stated that everything that came about came from a kernel of matter substance, and it expanded. But the secret doctrine states that the sun did not give rise to the planets. The sun came about first, but the sun and the planets of our solar system are brothers. The sun is not the father, did not give rise to the planets. They all come from the same substance. There's a statement in the secret doctrine that all of the planets are comets and suns in their origin, and they evolve into manvantaric life from chaos. At first they have to accumulate, and through aggregation come into life, and they become comets. They travel in space, lose the tail, and if they're not swallowed by the other systems, then they have a life. And in the commentary, this is a statement: thus the sons of light clothed themselves with the fabric of darkness. Surya himself, a reflection of the central spiritual sun, is the prototype of all those bodies that evolved after him. So the planets then are the domains of various beings. What are they called? These are the Dhyan Chohans. Of the secret doctrine. They are the Dhyan Chohans of the secret doctrine. Every heavenly body, we're told, is a temple of God. These gods constitute the unknown in their aggregate totality. So each world then has its parent star and sister planet. Our planet has for its alter ego Venus, but each has its own inhabitants, and they're their own kind, appropriate to that particular planet. The whole antiquity believed in the universality of life, but no really initiated seer of any civilized nation ever taught that life on other stars could be judged by the standards of terrestrial life. And this is what science does. Cannot really know what exactly is going on here, but they base it all on hypotheses and then stretch out to other systems. The informing intelligences then animate the various centers of being, and these are indiscriminately called, beyond the great range, Manus, Rishis, Pitris, progenitors. And on this side, Dhyani Buddhas, Chohans, Bodhisattvas, etc. And the chief groups, the primaries, are 7. And occultism teaches that humanity itself is divided into 7 distinct regions or groups, subdivisions: mental, spiritual, and physical. So 7 great races are to be born on Earth, and it is listed this way. The first race is born under the Sun, the second under Jupiter, the third under Venus, the fourth under Moon and Saturn, the fifth under Mercury. and these are held in reverence. So, Venus, Jupiter, Mercury, there's one other, I can't remember.
Was.
No, it's not the one here referred to. I'm not sure what it was. No, the sun is not included. I'm talking about these are the holy ones. In antiquity, our Earth, Sun, and Moon was never in the system. They only talking about the ones that were reverenced. So, in this occult philosophy, then, Earth and Venus are twin sisters because Venus has accepted Earth as its younger sister, and Venus receives triple supply of the light from the sun and gives 1/3 to Earth. And HPV says they were coming out of a rest period, and in the future their influence on Earth is going to be far greater than it has been up to this point. So, in astronomy then, it explains here, says that there was a planet closer to the sun, and this is called intramercurial planet, and supposedly it was discovered and named Vulcan in anticipation. Vulcan, I'll put it up here. I don't know what its name it really is. So the occult influence of this planet, it says, is transmitted to us. And the other one was a substitute for the moon, and that is another planet which is near the moon, but its motion is retrograde to ours. So these heavenly bodies then have direct astral and psychic communication with Earth. Its gods and watchers watch over humanity. But they don't interfere with anything, but they watch over humanity and its progress. The moon is the mother of the earth chain, but even though its spiritual principles are not there, its body is kind of half paralyzed. So it does influence tremendously what happens on Earth. And some cultures call it, give it a male name, like the Hindus, King Soma, others female, like a goddess, Diana, Luna, Lucina. So it is stated that all of the modern information that we have come from these old mysteries about the moon and the sun. The sun is the giver of life, and all of its titles merged into that title, and the moon was referred to as Maya, Maria, Mea, and everything that it represented was in those names. When we look at the races, I'm going to jump quite a bit and finish it off. We see that the third race had the mind lighted, and they had no concept of religion, because when that light came, They had no dogma, they had no faith, they had no religion. But in the fourth race, the Atlanta Lemurians, humanity separated into two groups. In the third race, there was the ever-present, the ever-unknown all, the central spiritual sun that gave life. But in the Atlantean race, the separation occurred. They separated into righteous and unrighteous. Those who worship the one spirit of nature, which is unity, and felt the ray illuminating them, they became pantheists later on. The fanatical ones who offered worship to the spirits of the earth, the dark cosmic anthropomorphic powers, they made alliance with those forces. So, this is the secret and the mysterious origin of subsequent and modern religions. It comes from the Atlanteans when they divided into two. So, our reference for life and nature comes because we come from the same root. The one life supports everything in the universe. Man, I'm sorry, I've run out of time. Man is a miniature copy of the cosmos. All of the powers that exist in the universe also exist in him. And it is stated that the highest possible is emancipation. Emancipation and becoming supporter of these higher intelligences, becoming like them. So we come from higher intelligences, and when we are purified, then we return to our source with all of the accumulated wisdom that we gather as we go through life. And I will stop here.